Breaking news now coming from the Australian Melbourne. A driver drove into a crowd of people in the heart of the city. According to local police, for the moment there is about 3 dead, more than 20 people injured, including a child. Their identity is now set. Melbourne, the second largest city in the country these days, is literally overflowing with foreign tourists. There is the Open Championship of Australia on tennis. And judging by the staff from surveillance cameras, the attacker deliberately went where more pedestrians. People scattered, someone is trying to hide in the store. Police tried to stop the driver, he resisted and opened fire. In the end, it still managed to twist and hold. Now the street where it happened, surrounded. Here's what witnesses say. We saw this car in a pedestrian zone. People rushed helter-skelter. The car was hit indiscriminately and rode on. It's just a shock. Literally every few meters you could see the victims, many were bleeding. In general, there was blood everywhere, says Hank Kerr. All thought of the repetition of events in Nice and Berlin, where terrorists rammed people at public events. In Melbourne, the second largest city in the country, now especially a lot of people. Thousands of tourists from around the world gathered at the Open Championship of Australia on tennis. The police, however, said that the crime likely a criminal nature. The attacker has been neutralized. During the arrest, he resisted and opened fire. But it still managed to twist. Now he is being questioned. The street where it all happened, was still cordoned off.
While preparations for the ceremony of inauguration of the elected President of the United States and around the world continue to sum up the work of the outgoing head of the United States, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev on his page in Facebook, in particular, noted that the actions of the Obama administration led to complete degradation of Russian-American relations. Other results of Washington's foreign policy, not better. We all know that the US has always tried to steer almost all the world's processes, shamelessly interfere in the internal affairs of different countries, waged multiple wars on foreign soil. Iraq, Arab Spring, Ukraine, Syria are just part of the list of the adventures of recent years. Their consequences we have seen so far, from the complete collapse of the political systems in these countries before the war, whose victims were tens of thousands of people, said Dmitry Medvedev.
The main event today is the inauguration of Donald Trump. When in Washington, will be noon in Moscow it's evening, the 45th President of the United States, standing on the platform in front of the Capitol, put his hand on the Bible and take the oath, officially takes office. But while the ceremony are the final preparations, Trump has promised that the inauguration will be the greatest in history, and the show, great. Washington is now literally running a fever. In the city strengthened security measures, attracts distinguished guests. Among others waiting for 4 former U.S. presidents. However, the holiday is trying to ruin the sight of several protests. Concrete blocks, police cordons, metal fences, and often considerably taller than a man, the less time remains before the inauguration, the more the center of Washington turns into an area of special control. 100 cordoned-off city blocks to 7 square kilometers. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies, tens of thousands. Will involve 10,000 employees of the Ministry of Internal Security and another 12,000 employees of other law enforcement agencies, including 7,800 men of the National Guard, said the Minister of Internal Security of the USA Jeh Johnson. Meanwhile, a big scandal caused the plot of the TV channel CNN, in a discussion of who will be the head of state, if at the time of the inauguration will kill Obama and Trump, as well as both vice presidents and both speakers of the Congress. If the president and vice president are killed or become incapacitated and are unable to take office, the next successor, the Speaker of Parliament, then a senator, which is the longest, takes his seat. But what if something happens to them during the inauguration? In such a case there is a man called the designated successor of the president. He is not present at the ceremony and is ready to take office, said in the story. Meanwhile, opponents of Donald Trump's promise during the inauguration mass protests. The number of participants was 350,000 people. Demonstrations are already underway. In Washington, for example, it came to clashes with the police. In New York, the protesters were joined by the mayor and stars of show business. We all require the new administration to abandon killing, racist, misogynistic, ignorant of the plans. Required to be governed by intelligent and compassionate, said the participant is the actor Robert De Niro. The meetings were at the Trump Tower, but the president-elect was in Washington, where he spoke to his supporters gathered at a grand concert in his honor. We will unite our country. You all know these words, every second a baseball cap with this slogan. Let's make America great again. But we will make America great for all people, for everyone in the whole country, he said. Trump takes office, when in Moscow it's 8 o'clock in the evening. He uttered a short oath promising to faithfully perform the duties of the president and defend the Constitution. And do it on 2 Bibles, one takes an oath. Abraham Lincoln, the second family, went to Trump's mother. Then the 45th president will deliver a speech. It is believed to be software. It is known that his speech he wrote personally, becoming the 3rd U.S. president after Lincoln and Roosevelt, who did not resort to the help of speechwriters. According to his assistant Colleen Conway, speech brief, beautiful, and strong. Trump is a man of action, and it will be heard, she said. Duration of speech, by which in the U.S. are paying attention. For example, the first president George Washington said just 135 words, and the 9th president, Harrison, spoke for 2 hours, eventually caught pneumonia and died a month later. Today in Washington promise plus 9 degrees and rain. The latter is particularly concerned about the Marines. It is the presidential orchestra. The main challenge for us in this day, its duration. 3 events, inauguration, parade, ball. Our enemy is the weather. Tools can either freeze as it was in the time of Obama's inauguration, or the wooden tools and notes could get wet. And the forecast is just rain, said the deputy commander of the Marine Band, Captain Ryan Nowlin. The team of the elected president has repeatedly stressed that his first decrees Trump will sign on Inauguration Day. According to Reuters, today he will make the first steps to the construction of the wall on the border with Mexico and limiting migration, and intends to undo some of Obama's decision. What is not reported, but earlier by Trump said that in the first place, will the health insurance reform, which Obama himself considers his main achievements. The outgoing president, meanwhile, still cannot naprositsya. Already had the last speech, and then his farewell press conference, before Obama sent the world the last email, in which he thanked Americans for what they have done it better. But this message is not the last, says Bradley Blackman, a former aide to President George W. Bush. Blackman even know where the next last letter will lie. There is a tradition that the outgoing president hand-wrote a note to the president-elect and leave it in your desk drawer.